Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're digging into how a full-blown culture war can actually be one of the best things to ever happen to a company's profit margin. It's a fascinating and pretty recent phenomenon.
So our story kicks off, as so many do these days, with just one ad. This past summer, American Eagle put out a campaign featuring the actress Sydney Sweeney. Seems simple enough,
But this ad, it did way more than just sell clothes. It sparked a huge firestorm online, basically splitting the audience right down the middle.
But here's where it gets really weird. While the internet was just tearing itself apart over this ad, American Eagle's stock shot up 24% in a single day. So how does that kind of controversy lead directly to that kind of success? Well, that's the puzzle we're going to solve today.
The whole thing really started with a single, pretty clever, and, what a lot of people think was a very deliberate play on words. The ad's tagline was, "Sydney Sweeney has great genes." Now, on the surface, okay, it's about denim, but pretty much everyone immediately got the double meaning. A pun on jeans talking about her looks. The internet, of course, reacted instantly, and the battle lines were drawn. Critics on one side saw a really dangerous message. Some folks on social media were even calling it fascist propaganda, pointing to that wordplay combined with Sweeney's appearance, blonde hair, blue eyes, as echoing some pretty ugly historical rhetoric.
And then, on the other side, you had prominent conservatives who rushed in to defend the ad. They basically framed all the criticism as just an attack on beauty. And, another example of woke culture just going way too far.
The whole debate really hit a fever pitch when former President Trump praised the ad on his social media platform, explicitly tying his support to her reported political party and framing the whole thing as a win against woke culture.
So while this cultural battle was raging, the cash register was just ringing. American Eagle's stock had its best day in more than 2 decades. Online searches for the brand hit an all-time high. And the jeans she was modeling, they sold out completely. See, this wasn't a PR crisis, it was a business triumph. And it was no accident. It's actually part of a much bigger trend.
Now, this whole American Eagle thing didn't just happen in a vacuum. For years now, brands have been dabbling in something that's come to be known as woke capitalism. And that term, it basically describes what happens when companies publicly align themselves with social justice movements. It's often a way to try and appeal to younger, more socially conscious consumers.
I mean, we've all seen this, right? These campaigns, they often get a lot of praise from one side, but they also get some fierce criticism for being insincere wokewashing. Using social justice as a marketing gimmick while maybe ignoring their own labor practices or environmental impact.
So, naturally, the backlash against that trend, it created its own powerful market force. This phrase became a huge rallying cry for consumers who just felt alienated by what they saw as performative, progressive marketing. It led to these really high-profile boycotts of brands like Bud Light after its partnership with the trans influencer Dylan Mulvaney.
So, here we are. We've got these two seemingly opposite forces, woke marketing on one side and anti-woke marketing on the other. It looks like a culture war, and it's being fought with corporate dollars.
But here's a thought. What if this isn't a war between two opposing sides at all? What if it's something totally different? There's a theory out there that this is actually one single brilliant marketing strategy. And this is the heart of what's called the dual harvest theory. It argues that the goal isn't actually to win a political argument, it's to profit from the argument itself. So brands can sell moral satisfaction to liberal consumers, and they can turn around and sell identity-based rebellion to conservative ones. The point isn't to pick a side, it's to sell to both sides. It perfectly hedges your risk no matter which way the cultural winds are blown. So, what does a system like this actually end up producing? Well, it produces the illusion of political action. It transforms our deepest beliefs into a simple choice at the checkout counter. So the crucial takeaway here is that this system channels our desire for real political change directly into consumerism. Buying a woke ice cream or an anti-woke beer feels like you're doing something political. But in the end, both of those purchases are fueling the exact same economic engine.
To really get how this works, the French theorist Jean Baudrillard gives us a pretty useful map. He said images evolve through 4 stages. First, they just reflect reality. Think of a basic ad just showing you a pair of jeans.
Then, they distort reality, like greenwashing a brand's image. Stage 3, they hide the fact that reality is even absent, selling a feeling like authenticity that isn't really there. The American Eagle ad? That's stage 4. It's a pure symbol, completely detached from reality. The fight wasn't about the jeans. It was about what buying them symbolized. And this leads us to what the philosopher Guy Debord famously called the spectacle. It's basically a world where the representation of life has replaced actual life. Real conflict gets swapped out for the image of conflict. And that image, the outrage, the memes, the endless arguments online, all of it supercharged by algorithms, that becomes the actual product being sold.
Okay, so let's bring this all together. What is the ultimate takeaway here? What does this all mean? Ultimately, you could argue this dual harvest strategy is just a masterstroke of market logic. It turns social division itself into a business model. It makes sure that no matter who you are or what you believe, there's a product waiting for you, ready to help you express that identity through a purchase. And all this leaves us with a pretty provocative final question. If buying a product to signal your virtue and buying another product to signal your rebellion, if they both end up feeding the exact same system, what does real change even look like in a world where our very identities are for sale?